Hera, queen of the Olympian gods, was one of the most powerful and complex deities of Greek mythology. Daughter of the titans Cronus and Rhea, and sister-wife of Zeus, she reigned as the goddess of marriage, family, and women. Her presence was majestic, often depicted crowned with a diadem, holding a scepter, and accompanied by the peacock, whose many-eyed feathers symbolized her vigilance. Though she represented fidelity and union, Hera's own marriage to Zeus was anything but peaceful. Zeus was notorious for his countless affairs with goddesses, nymphs, and mortals. Hera's role in mythology is deeply tied to this dynamic: her endless struggle with Zeus's infidelities, her jealousy, and her relentless vengeance against rivals and their offspring. Yet Hera was not simply a goddess of jealousy. She embodied the sacredness of marriage, the authority of queenship, and the fierce dignity of a goddess who refused to be diminished. Her myths, intertwined with Zeus's, reveal her strength, cunning, and unyielding will to maintain her status as Queen of Olympus. Long before they became the eternal rivals of Olympus, Zeus and Hera shared a moment of tenderness that bound them together forever. For centuries, Zeus courted Hera. He descended from Olympus in countless forms: a noble eagle, a radiant youth, a shimmering god wrapped in clouds of gold. But Hera, proud and cautious, rejected him each time. She had seen how Zeus's desires were like storms, powerful, sudden, and destructive. She was determined not to be swept away. One spring evening, as Hera wandered alone across the green slopes of Mount Cronus, a storm broke across the sky. Amid the rain and thunder, she noticed a small cuckoo bird, trembling on a branch, feathers soaked. Its pitiful chirp stirred compassion in her. "Poor creature," Hera murmured, lifting the bird gently. She held it close against her breast, warming it with her body. In that instant, lightning flashed, and the bird vanished from her hands, revealing Zeus in his full divine form, radiant and crowned with thunder. Hera gasped, stepping back, but Zeus caught her gaze. "You have cared for me in disguise, sweet sister," he said with a voice like rolling clouds. "Will you not also care for me as your husband?" Hera's pride wavered before the force of his presence. Though she foresaw storms and trials ahead, she could not resist the inevitability of fate. At last, she agreed. Their wedding was held on the sacred island of Euboea, where all gods gathered. The Ori crowned Hera with a garland, the Muses sang divine hymns, and Gaia herself offered a golden tree heavy with fruit as a gift. From that day, Hera became Queen of Heaven, enthroned beside Zeus. And yet, even on that day of joy, Hera knew that her role as wife would not be simple. For she had bound herself not just to the king of gods, but to a tempest that would rage for eternity. Not long after their marriage, the balance between Zeus and Hera was shaken. From their union came many children: Ares, Hebe, and Eileithyia. But Hera's pride was wounded when Zeus birthed Athena alone, splitting his own skull to bring forth the goddess of wisdom. "If he can bear a child without me," Hera said with bitter fury, "then so shall I." And so, without Zeus, she conceived and bore Hephaestus, god of fire and the forge. But when the child was born, Hera recoiled, his legs were twisted, his body weak. The queen of the heavens, whose beauty was unmatched, had brought forth a crippled son. Some myths say Hera, ashamed, hurled Hephaestus down from Olympus herself. Others claim it was Zeus who, in scorn, cast the child into the void. Whatever the truth, Hephaestus fell for 9 days and 9 nights before crashing into the sea. There, the Nereid Thetis and the goddess Eurynomé took him in, raising him in a secret grotto. From his exile, Hephaestus nurtured his genius, crafting marvelous works of bronze and gold, while vowing vengeance against the parents who had forsaken him. Years later, he would return to Olympus with his forges blazing, no longer a castaway but a master of divine craft, yet the wound of his rejection never fully healed. His story was a scar upon Hera's marriage, a reminder that even the queen of gods could not control the fate of her children. Among all of Zeus's betrayals, none wounded Hera more deeply than the story of Io, a mortal priestess who served Hera herself. Zeus, stricken with desire, descended in a storm of lust. To conceal the affair, he veiled the earth in thick clouds. But Hera's eyes were keen. She parted the mists and found her husband standing beside the trembling maiden. "Who is this girl, my lord?" Hera asked, voice calm as a serpent before striking. Thinking quickly, Zeus transformed Io into a snow-white cow. "Why, my queen, this is but a gift for you," he lied. But Hera, knowing his tricks, smiled coldly. "Then I shall keep it." She placed Io under the watch of Argus Panoptes, the hundred-eyed giant, who never slept fully. Half his eyes remained open, always watching. Io, trapped in her bovine form, wandered in misery, weeping milk-white tears. Zeus, pitying her, sent Hermes to free her. The messenger lulled Argus to sleep with music and then slew him with a swift strike. Furious, Hera plucked the many eyes of Argus and set them in the tail of her sacred bird, the peacock, so that he would never be forgotten. But Hera's vengeance was not finished. She sent a gadfly to sting Io relentlessly, driving her across the earth in torment. Io crossed seas and continents, fleeing from the invisible whip of Hera's wrath, until at last she found rest in Egypt. There, Zeus restored her form, and she bore a child, beginning a line of kings. But Io never forgot the agony of Hera's jealousy, and her name became a warning. To be loved by Zeus was to be cursed by Hera. In the city of Thebes lived Semele, a princess of radiant beauty and gentle spirit. She was loved by all, but none more than Zeus, who descended from Olympus to lie with her in secret. Their love was tender, and soon Semele bore the seed of a child. But nothing escaped Hera's notice. The queen of the gods, cloaked in cunning, devised a plan to destroy the mortal girl. One day, disguised as an old woman with kind eyes, Hera approached Semele. "My dear," the false crone whispered, "you are young, but do you not see? Men are liars. How do you know your lover is truly Zeus and not some deceiver in disguise?" Semele faltered. "He swears it with his words and gifts." "Words," the crone spat. "If he is Zeus, let him prove it. Ask him to come to you as he comes to Hera, in all his divine glory." The seed of doubt took root in Semele's heart. That night, when Zeus visited, she clung to him with trembling hands. "My lord," she begged, "grant me one wish, as you love me." "Anything," said Zeus, drunk with passion. "By the river Styx, I swear it. Then come to me as you truly are, as a god." At once, Zeus's joy turned to dread. He pleaded with her to retract her wish, but the oath was unbreakable. And so, in sorrow, he revealed his full form, a god crowned in lightning, wrapped in the fire of the storm. The blaze consumed Semele instantly. She perished in thunder, her mortal body unable to bear the sight of divinity. Yet within her womb the child still stirred. Zeus snatched the unborn infant from the flames and sewed him into his thigh until the day of birth. Thus was born Dionysus, god of wine, ecstasy, and madness. Hera's jealousy had claimed another victim, but in her spite, she had also unleashed a new god upon the world, one who would wander the earth and challenge her power in time. When Zeus laid with Leto, the gentle Titaness of dusk, Hera's wrath reached across the earth. She decreed that no land touched by the sun should give Leto shelter as she bore Zeus's children. Pregnant and pursued, Leto wandered the world in agony. Wherever she went, Hera's shadow followed. She forbade rivers to quench Leto's thirst. She sent monstrous serpents to hound her steps. Even the earth itself shunned her, for none dared defy the queen of Olympus. At last, Leto found refuge on the floating island of Delos, a barren rock not bound to the earth. There, at long last, she was free from Hera's curse. Yet even in labor, Hera sought to hinder her. She kept Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth and Hera's own daughter, from attending Leto, hoping the pain would never end. Only when the other goddesses bribed her with a golden necklace did Hera relent. And so, amid olive trees and sacred swans, Leto gave birth to Artemis, goddess of the hunt, who immediately aided her mother in delivering her twin brother, Apollo, god of light and prophecy. From that day forth, Apollo and Artemis stood as protectors of their mother, eternal adversaries of Hera. Though Hera's jealousy was mighty, even she could not prevent the rise of the radiant children of Leto. Among all Zeus's mortal offspring, none drew Hera's hatred like Heracles. When Alcmene, a mortal queen, lay with Zeus, Hera's fury erupted. She delayed the birth with tricks, sending her daughter Eileithyia to knot Alcmene's womb so the child could not emerge. Yet fate was stronger than Hera's schemes, and Heracles was born. From his first breath, Hera sought to end him. One night, she sent 2 monstrous serpents slithering into his cradle. But even as an infant, Heracles revealed his divine strength. He seized the snakes in his tiny fists and crushed them, laughing as their lifeless coils fell limp. Hera's rage only deepened. As Heracles grew, she struck again, this time with madness. With a single thought, she clouded his mind, and in his frenzy, Heracles slew his wife and children with his own hands. When clarity returned, he fell to his knees in horror. To atone, Heracles was condemned to the 12 labors, each secretly twisted by Hera's hand. She sent the crab to aid the Hydra. She strengthened the Amazon queen against him. She drove him into endless toil, hoping to break him. But Heracles endured, triumphing again and again. At last, when he was granted immortality and rose to Olympus, Hera could not deny his greatness. In a rare gesture of reconciliation, she offered him her daughter Hebe as wife. Thus, the bitterest enemies became kin, though the wounds of Hera's wrath echoed through Heracles' life forever. Hera's rivalry with Zeus reached its height in the Trojan War. It began with the judgment of Paris, when Eris, goddess of strife, cast a golden apple inscribed, "To the fairest." Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each claimed it. Zeus refused to decide, leaving the choice to Paris of Troy. Hera promised Paris kingship over all men if he chose her. Athena promised wisdom in war. Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful woman alive, Helen of Sparta. Paris chose Aphrodite, and Hera swore eternal hatred against Troy. When war came, Hera allied herself with the Greeks. Again and again, she defied Zeus, who favored the Trojans. She conspired with Athena and Poseidon, urging the Achaeans to fight with greater fury. At one point, to distract Zeus, Hera adorned herself in divine beauty and borrowed Aphrodite's magical girdle. She approached her husband with irresistible allure, and as they lay together, Zeus forgot the battlefield. In that moment, Hera's allies struck fiercely at Troy. Though Zeus eventually awoke to her deception, the war continued, and Hera's vengeance drove it to its bloody end. For when Troy burned, she rejoiced, for the insult of Paris's judgment had at last been avenged. Hera's myths are woven from love and hate, majesty and jealousy, cruelty and justice. As queen of Olympus, she embodied the sanctity of marriage, yet her own marriage was a battlefield. She defended loyalty but punished betrayal with venom. She was protector and destroyer, mother and rival, wife and warrior. To the Greeks, Hera was not just a goddess, she was the very reflection of human passion and pain, magnified to divine proportions. Her legacy endures not as a gentle queen, but as a storm that raged forever beside the thunder of Zeus. In the age before men knew fire, the Titan Prometheus walked among mortals as a teacher and protector. He pitied their weakness, how they shivered in the cold, ate raw flesh, and feared the dark. One day, Prometheus climbed to the heavens and stole a spark from the chariot of the sun, hiding it in a hollow fennel stalk. He brought the flame to mankind, and from that day, men learned to cook, to forge, and to wield the light against the night. But Zeus, king of gods, was enraged. Fire was a gift for the divine alone. Ungrateful Titan, he thundered, his voice shaking Olympus, you have raised men to defy the will of the gods. In vengeance, Zeus devised a double punishment. First, he sent Pandora, the first woman, as a bride to mankind. She carried a jar, which, when opened, released sickness, toil, sorrow, and death into the world, leaving only hope trapped inside. Thus, mortals would never again live free of suffering. Second, Zeus condemned Prometheus to eternal torment. He was bound in chains of adamantine upon a lonely Caucasian cliff. Each day, an eagle, the bird sacred to Zeus, descended and tore open his flesh, devouring his liver. Each night, the wound healed, only for the torture to begin anew. For ages, Prometheus endured, his defiance unbroken. At last, it was Zeus's own son, Heracles, who slew the eagle and freed the Titan, but only with Zeus's grudging consent. Thus, Zeus proved both his cruelty and his cunning, for though he punished Prometheus, he allowed his release only when it suited his own designs. Among Zeus's most famous conquests was Europa, a Phoenician princess whose beauty was said to rival the dawn. One spring morning, Europa gathered flowers by the shore, laughing with her maidens. Suddenly, among the grazing herd appeared a majestic bull, white as fresh snow, its hide gleaming like polished marble. Unlike the others, this bull was gentle, with eyes that shone with strange intelligence. It was Zeus, who had transformed himself to ensnare her. At first, Europa was cautious, but the bull knelt softly at her feet, nuzzling her hand. She placed flowers upon its horns, then dared to climb upon its back. In that instant, the bull leapt into the sea. Europa cried out as waves rose around her, but the bull charged forward, skimming the waters as dolphins leapt beside them. "Fear not," a voice whispered in her mind. "I am Zeus, king of gods. You are mine." Carried across the Aegean, Europa arrived upon the island of Crete, where Zeus revealed his divine form. There, under the shade of plane trees, he lay with her, and from their union came 3 sons, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon, who became kings and judges of men. To honor Europa, Zeus placed a bull among the stars, the constellation Taurus, and gifted her with a necklace wrought by Hephaestus. Thus, the maiden who once played upon the shore became the mother of a dynasty, her name forever tied to the very continent of Europe. One day, Zeus looked down upon the plains of Troy and beheld Ganymede, a shepherd boy of such beauty that even the gods marveled. His hair shone like gold, and his face glowed with youth's eternal spring. Zeus's heart was struck with desire. He descended upon the boy in the form of a great eagle, his wings dark against the sky. With powerful talons, he seized Ganymede and carried him up through clouds and thunder to Olympus itself. The other gods protested, "Why bring a mortal among us?" But Zeus silenced them. "He shall pour nectar for the immortals," Zeus declared, "and in his presence, the beauty of youth shall never fade from our halls." So Ganymede became cupbearer of the gods, serving ambrosia and nectar at divine feasts. In recompense for stealing the boy, Zeus granted his family in Troy immortal horses swift as the wind, and Ganymede himself was placed among the stars as the constellation Aquarius. Yet Hera seethed. To her, Ganymede was not just a favorite of Zeus, but a reminder of her own humiliation. She tolerated his presence in Olympus, but never with warmth. For Hera, each of Zeus's desires was a wound that never healed. Once, mankind grew arrogant and corrupt, defying the gods with pride. Zeus, looking down from Olympus, saw cities consumed by greed, temples abandoned, and mortals daring to challenge divine law. "The race of men has grown wicked," he proclaimed to the gods. "Let them be swept away, and let a new age begin." And so, he unleashed a flood. Storms raged, lightning split the heavens, and the seas rose to swallow the earth. Mountains became islands, and only the peaks of Parnassus remained above the waves. Among all mortals, only Deucalion, son of Prometheus, and his wife Pyrrha were spared. Warned by Prometheus, they built a small ark and drifted for 9 days and nights until the waters receded. When they landed, the world lay in silence, empty, desolate. They sought guidance from the oracle of Themis, who told them, "Throw the bones of your mother over your shoulders, and the earth shall be renewed." Puzzled, they realized that mother meant Gaia, the earth, and her bones were the stones. They cast stones behind them, and as they struck the ground, they softened into flesh, becoming new men and women. Thus, mankind was reborn after the flood, purified by Zeus's wrath.